If you're looking to be able to hit targets at distance precisely and consistently, you're going to need to have data for your gun. And one of the areas that you need to be able to collect data on is the muzzle velocity for your rifle. Now you can go online, download some apps, and get some approximate muzzle velocity information on your gun based on what type of ammo you're shooting, the barrel length. You can even put in some weather information and it'll give you an approximate muzzle velocity. However, if you want good, accurate data, you're going to need something like this Garmin Xero C2 Chronograph. Now, if you're not familiar with what these are, that's the purpose of this video. We're gonna go through what comes in the box, how to use it. We're also gonna talk about the predecessor to the C2 and just talk about some of the features and show you guys how to use these chronographs. Now, I'm sure a lot of you guys are aware of who Garmin is and are aware of that they make really quality products. They're one of my favorite brands personally. I own over $10,000 worth of Garmin products, from chronographs to watches, overland devices, inReach devices. Garmin just makes really good stuff, but typically they have been making stuff for what the brand was designed for: outdoor stuff, hunting, overlanding, hiking, all of those sorts of things. They even do dive equipment. They do all sorts of cool stuff. But recently, in the past couple of years, they started making devices like the chronograph that have started to creep into the tactical gun world. However, Garmin's not trying to make their brand a tactical brand, but that doesn't mean that their quality of product, their engineering capability, their innovation does not carry over to what they're making here in the gun space. So the Garmin Xero has been around for a couple of years if you haven't been aware of it, and it has actually become a very, very popular chronograph for a number of reasons. One, the form factor, the size of it, it's very lightweight, it's not super expensive, and it's very easy to use. So for people who aren't aware of the typical chronographs, they have been some crazy devices that you have had to attach to guns. They've been very pricey, and they just haven't been very convenient. But this guy, without the stand, is super small and super convenient. Now, not only does the Garmin C2 offer all of the same attractive features of the original Xero, it also has a couple improvements, and we're going to talk about those as we go through the demonstration of the device. But first, we're going to unbox it, and then we're going to do a little over the shoulder to show you guys how to set it up, connect it to your phone, which is one of the new capabilities with the C2 comparatively to the original Xero, and we'll get to demonstrating with some live fire. So opening the box, it's very simple. This doesn't come with a ton of different components. You're going to get the device itself, you're going to get a little tripod, and then you're going to get a lens cover for it. This is just for protection while traveling. I guess you can use it while this is covering it. The radar is still exposed. And then you also have a charging cable and a user manual. So very simple, nothing crazy. So let's go ahead and get into setting this guy up. So first things first, let's go ahead and attach the tripod. It just screws in, so super simple. Now, on the note of the tripod, Garmin does sell a device that will connect this directly to either Arca or Picatinny, which can be very convenient for a lot of reasons. But also that's one of the improvements over the original Xero. So this guy was actually not rated for recoil. So if you mounted it on a gun, it could shut off or just not read properly. Or if you had this close to a concussive muzzle device, it would just shut off sometimes. So that was one of the really frustrating things with this one, but this guy has seemed to improve on that. So when you first turn it on for the first time, you're going to get your languages. We are in the United States of America, so we're gonna go with English. And then the first thing it's going to ask you after that is what units you want the device to read. So feet per second is the most common. So we're just going to go ahead and select that. And then it's going to ask you if the first time you start it up, it's going to ask you if you want to pair with a phone. So we're going to go ahead and say yes this time. From there, we're going ahead and open up the Garmin Shop View app. So if you don't have the app, go ahead and download it. But one thing to note here, you do not need this app to work the device. This is just a way to be able to see the information from the device a little bit easier. So we're going to go over to Devices, Add Device, connect it. We're going to see the numbers pop up, make sure they match, pair. This is not rocket science, it's extremely simple. Obviously, you're going to need to make sure Bluetooth is enabled on your phone, and then you are good to go. Now from here, it's just going to show you the data that it's going to be presented on the device. So after the phone is connected, it's going to ask you if you want to compare with a watch. Now there are some Garmin watches out there that basically do the same thing. It is just going to view the data that the device has. We don't have one of those, so we're just going to skip that. And then you are ready to start using the device. Now, one of the big improvements to the C2 is the fact that it can work with applied ballistics. So for all of the precision shooters out there or people that use applied ballistics, that is one of the most attractive features of the device. So Applied Ballistics gives you all sorts of information, and basically, without getting into a lot of the nitty-gritty details, this is going to transmit the data directly to your Applied Ballistics app to give you all of the information that you need. So you don't have to manually type in your muzzle velocity or anything like that. So that's what we're going to do. That's all it is with Applied Ballistics. We're not actually going to use that today. So we're going to go ahead and get into the demoing of just the settings here. So when we start to use it, this is what the screen looks like as soon as you turn it on. You just go to new session, you select what you're doing. You can do bow, air rifle, slingshot, I guess, pistol. But first you're gonna go rifle, and then you're going to select the range of feet per second for whatever round you're shooting. So if you're shooting a subsonic round or 9mm, you're gonna be in that lower feet per second range. If you're shooting, 5.56 or something like that, you'll be in that range. And then we're going to go ahead and we'll go through the walkthrough just because this way it'll kind of help us out here. But the big numbers here on the screen, it's going to be your FPS, and then you're going to have your fields here. Now you can change what these fields say. You can kind of just modify this, which we're going to do in a second. And the rest of this information is pretty simple. But from here, it's telling you where to place the device in relation to your muzzle device. So you get a couple options here: 5 feet or 5 inches to 15 inches. Behind and to the left or to the right, and you'll be good to go. So once you start, you can start shooting and it'll start recording data. But before we get to that, let's go ahead and get through some of the other menu settings. So first, let's go to settings. So you can change your units, which we don't need to do. You have your display settings, which you can change your color, black to white. You can change your backlight color, and then you can change your timeout. Some basic stuff there. Data field, so this is going to be one of the ones that I think is more important. So you have two options here. You can display 3 rows of information or just 2. I recommend doing 3. So we want our average displayed. So the big number in the middle is going to be our last shot. Then we want our average. We want our standard deviation. So this is going to be important information just to know how inconsistent your ammo is. And then we have our extreme spread. So this is one of the numbers that this is very important to this. It's not going to be super useful for you as a shooter, first-hand information, at least not for me, but that's what I like to use. Now, the other information that's in here that you can change it from, so you have your average, standard deviation, extreme spread, deviation from average, your minimum, your maximum, and however many shots you have. So for this one, I'm actually going to go ahead and change it to shot. So I know how many shots I'm shooting, I have my standard deviation, and then my average. Moving back from there, you have projectile weight entry. From standard factory, it's going to be toggled off. I recommend turning it on. So when you start your session, it's going to ask you how heavy your ammunition is. So if you're shooting green tip 5.56, you put in 62 grain, for example, or M193, you put in 55 grain. Downrange mode, it just changes the view of the screen in case for whatever reason you have this farther down range, as in like 100 meters away. It just makes the numbers bigger as if you could see it anyways, but the idea there is you look through your scope and you'll be able to see what information is being read on the device. Language, connectivity, so you can pay your Garmin watch, forget, phone, some basic stuff there. And then you have device tips, reset, device passcode, which we're not going to worry about, and that's basically it. And then from there you just have your saved sessions. You scroll through and you can look at all of your sessions. So that is going through the menu, pretty short and simple. Like I said, this device is extremely easy to use, so let's go ahead and go over and demonstrate how to actually just demonstrate a session. So when we get into using this guy, we're going to just follow the instructions on the screen when it comes down to where we're putting this device in relation to the muzzle device of our rifle. So 5 to 15 inches away from the point of it and from the side of the gun. Basically, if you just go arm's reach from your gun, if you're in the prone, about 10 inches away from the gun, you'll be fine. It's, again, not super complicated. If you screw it up a little bit, it's still gonna read and everything will be kosher. We just wanna make sure the device is pointed towards the target. So in line with the gun as parallel as possible, and you'll be fine. Now there's a lot of little things that come into play when it comes down to collecting good muzzle velocity data, when it comes to weather, how fast you're shooting, all of these sorts of things. But if you're shooting just a general carbine, what I have been doing, and it's been working extremely well, very effective, is I just collect data while I'm zeroing. And you're going to want at least 10 rounds for a group. Now I've done less. I've done 5-round groups and got data off of that. I've done up to 30 rounds. There's just a lot of things you can play with. So if you're basically, long story short, if you're a precision shooter, you want to eliminate as many of those variables as possible. But if you're someone like me who I'm just shooting my carbine, I shoot tactical games, which is a pretty precision type sport, but we're still just shooting 5.56, so it doesn't have to be super precise. The way I'm demonstrating is gonna be just fine. For the majority of people, this is just fine. But again, if you're gonna be using this in a precision type sport, you're probably watching someone else demonstrate this anyway because they're precision shooters. I am not, but here we go. So we're going to start by getting this device set up, just doing the same thing that we did over there. New session, select rifle, select 1700 to 5000 FPS, enter the weight of your projectile to get accurate kinetic energy values. Is gonna pop up as a question. I'm gonna select yes. And I'm shooting 62 grain, so I'm just going to go ahead and scroll through there and adjust that. So just like that. And once I click through that, I am ready to go. The device is ready to display the information. So as you see, we have on the data here, we have shot, and we changed one of our data fields to shots as well. So we have duplicated information there. So I'll go back and change that. I didn't realize it displayed that, I forgot. So we're gonna do a 10-round group just like we're zeroing. I'm not gonna shoot super fast or anything. And I will say, when you are collecting this data, try and have consistent rhythm with your shooting. So if it's every 3 seconds, keep it every 3. Don't shoot like one round and then wait 10 seconds, shoot one, and then shoot one in 3 seconds. Just try and be a little consistent with it. And if it's every second, every 5, every 10, whatever the case may be, it should give you accurate data. All right, so that was 10 shots. Right here on the screen, we see the data from our last shot of 2,840 feet FPS, so 62 grain out of a 13.9. That's pretty good. We have our average in the bottom left, which is honestly the most important piece of information we need for calculating and building out a dope card. And then we have here in the middle, SD, which is our standard deviation of 17.5. That is not good, but pretty consistent with PMC ammo. And that right there is the most important information I need for the gun. So now what we're gonna do here is, before we get into building out a data card and actually showing you guys why this information is important, we're going to demonstrate one of the other benefits to the C2 versus the original Zero, and that is how fast I'm able to shoot. So this guy had a significant delay. You had to wait for it to process each shot before you can shoot again. This guy, apparently it can read shots much quicker, and we're going to try that with the belt fed here. So let's go ahead and set that up, and we'll demonstrate that, and then we'll get into building out a little data card. Now before we move on, should show you guys how to close the session out. So when you're done shooting, all you're gonna do is hit the back button, which is also the power button on top, and then it'll give you the option of cancel or end session. If I wanna end the session, I just hit okay. It'll save the session. And if I want to go review that data, it's going to go right back to basically the menu settings here. I'll go down to saved sessions, click on the session I just did, click on session summary, and it's going to give me all of the data that I want to see. So it's actually going to give you everything just by scrolling through, which is pretty awesome. This looks a little different comparatively to the original Zero. So pretty cool. Now I've never set up 2 chronos next to each other. These are radar, so it shouldn't interfere with anything. It's just collecting, it's not transmitting, so it shouldn't see any interference here. But if you're a precision shooter, or even if you're shooting just a carbine like this, this feature isn't going to be all that important to you. However, I will say sometimes the original Zero is so slow that I have to slow down my shooting when I'm trying to get groups. So we're gonna see how beneficial this is, or how accurate it is. So it does advertise it's 10 rounds per second, so that's 600 rounds a minute, which is a slow machine gun. This fight light is pretty quick, so we're gonna see how well it does. We're gonna go 30 rounds and see how many it captures. All right, so it captured 17 of the 30. That was way faster than 10 rounds a second. The original Zero captured a total of 1 round. So we can see just an improvement there. And standard deviation of 11.7 with the fight light, which is interesting, shooting the same exact ammo as that guy. So I'm gonna do that again, but just with this guy, and so I'm just gonna kind of rapid fire it. We're gonna go 10 rounds and see just another comparison there. So same test here, I'm just gonna do it with semi, and I'm just gonna shoot basically as fast as I want to, and we'll be able to see the differences here with the capability of gathering data. So here we go. All right, so 10 shots there, not super fast. The C2 captured all 10, and the Xero captured 3. So we are actually seeing a little bit different data capturing here. So we have an average of 280 or 2827 with a standard deviation of 17 with the C2. And I will have to end the session to be able to see that information on the original here. And standard deviation of 18.7 with an average of 2837. Now, it did only capture 3 rounds, so some of that information is a little off. But the last round, the C2 was 4 FPS slower. So I have actually seen someone online say that if you have an original Xero, to still upgrade to the C2, but keep your original. That way you're able to get data from 2 different devices, just to have more information for when you're building out your cards. And if that applies to you, then that applies to you. But if you already have a Xero C1, it's a great device. It works really well. Unless you really need the upgraded features of connecting to a phone, being able to capture rapid fire, being able to mount it to a gun, the C2 is, it is more money. I'm not going to say, replace your original, and the original one is still great. So the last thing we're going to demonstrate now is just capturing some data with a pistol, and then we'll get into building out the dope card for this and kind of demonstrating why that's so important. Setting up for a pistol is extremely simple. When you get to the screen, it'll ask you rifle, pistol, bow, air rifle, all of those options. So select pistol, obviously, your FPS, same ranges here, so 600 to 1700 FPS is what we're selecting for our range. It's going to ask you for the weight of the projectile again, so we're going to say yes. I got 115 grain, it's already preloaded. And then it's going to tell you the exact same information, 5 to 15 inches from the muzzle device, both from the side and from the front. So we're going to go ahead and select OK to that. Now, if you're wondering why would I need to collect data for muzzle velocity on my pistol, well, if you know why, then you know that you need it. But if you don't know why you may want to do that, don't worry about it, because you probably don't need it. So for this, it's 5 to 15 inches. So if you want to just get your muzzle basically in line with it, you can shoot from behind it. You can shoot slightly in front of it. Like I said, it's not going to be, it doesn't matter all that much. We'll just do basically right next to it. So collected all 10 shots of data, just fine. Standard deviation of 17, average of 1217. That's Winchester 115 white box. And basically that is it. So let's actually get into building out some data for our rifle that we zeroed or shot over there. So to view the data that you want, there's a couple of ways you can do it. You can do it right off the device, or you can do it off of the app. So if your device is connected to your phone, as soon as you open the app, it's going to give you the history of all of your sessions that are currently saved on the device. So we're going to look at this one right here. We just click on it, and then all of the information that we want plus some is going to be available on the app. So for me personally, all I care about is the average FPS. That's going to be the information that I put into my Kestrel. I do want to know about my standard deviation. This gives me an idea of how inconsistent the ammo is. But if we want to view it directly on the device, we just scroll down to which session we want to view. Select OK, session summary, and we should have the same exact information, which we do. So from here, there's a number of different devices and apps that you can use to build out this data card. For me, I'm using the Kestrel. So I'm going to go to my Kestrel app here. I'm going to make sure my Kestrel is connected. Now that my device is connected, I can go to my gun profile management, start editing things. So it's not totally important for how to do this with the Kestrel specifically, because you could be using some other different app or something like that. But all I want to show you guys is the importance of this device in particular. So we're looking at our average FPS here, and that's what I'm going to input into my muzzle velocity here. So we have an average of 2843. So I'm just going to go ahead and put in 2843, and you can round it. If it's a couple feet off, it's not going to matter, especially if you're just shooting your standard carbine. Make sure all my other data is good. Looks like it's good enough. I'm just going to rename it because this is my 13.9. Go ahead and save. Select it. And I'm going to send profiles to my Kestrel. Now, this is why this is so important. So if I scroll through my Kestrel here, make sure my gun's selected, I go to my range card, and it's going to tell me what my holds are for each distance. Now, I can't get this information if I don't, unless I have muzzle velocity. So all I have to say, this device is vitally important for gathering accurate muzzle velocity data for whatever device I'm using, whether it's the Kestrel or whether it's a ballistic calculator on your phone, whatever the case may be, in order for that device to give me good, accurate data for my holds. So we can verify this data by shooting out the distance and making sure that what my ballistic calculator tells me is accurate. So if this is incorrect, there's a good chance that my muzzle velocity is incorrect. So let's go shoot some steel, make sure all our data is good. All right, first piece of steel is 170 yards, so this should be a fairly simple hold. It's just up 0.2. Make sure we can hit it. All right, there we go. So that was a 4-inch gong. Now we're going to go out a little bit farther. Looking at 320 yards. So up 1.2, so a little bit higher of a hold. All right, so that's a 6-inch gong. All right, and then we're going to go out a little bit farther. We're just going to stretch it out now. Go to our farthest target array that we got available. 425 yards. We got some wind, so that's affecting things a little bit. So we're looking at a 2.2 mil hold. Had to hold a little bit for wind, but just for safe measures. You guys should be able to hear that. So hopefully that demonstration showed you guys how important it is for you to have good, accurate muzzle velocity information for whatever ballistic calculator you have. And like I said, as you guys can see, I'm using a Kestrel. But that's going to be really important for you to be able to know exactly what your gun is doing with your specific barrel length, with your specific ammo, all of those sorts of things. And if you include your muzzle velocity with something like a Kestrel that can give you some weather information as well, you should know exactly what your gun's going to do at a very specific distance. So if you guys have any questions regarding the Garmin C2 or any other device, or even the Xero, the original C1, just go ahead and shoot us an email at team@trex-arms.com and we'll be happy to help.